to Nonsense Farm. Today we're in my raised bed garden. Here I have 19 8x4 raised beds, and I have worked very hard to develop this raised bed garden area. And today I'm going to tell you 3 things that I would do differently if I were starting over today. Gardening can be a lot of work. You have to plant things, you have to combat pests, weeds, you have to fertilize them to make them grow. Then you have to harvest it, then you have to process it, you have to prepare it. It's a lot of work. So when you're setting up your garden, you want to create as little unnecessary work as possible. I first started on this garden 4 years ago when we first bought the land that would become Nonsense Farm. The garden was one of my first priorities. I know better now than I knew then, so I'm going to share that wisdom with you. My initial vision is that I would put landscape cloth between the beds and then cover it with wood chips, because I figured the landscape cloth would deteriorate over time. What I know now is that the landscape cloth takes a long time to deteriorate, whereas the wood chips, they break down over time and they become soil. And guess what grows in soil? Weeds. So if I had to do it over again, I would not put these wood chips on the landscape cloth. I would just put bare landscape cloth. The next thing I would do differently, do you notice how these garden beds are different than the rest of the garden beds? Well, this is the original model. I made these myself. I bought a lot of lumber, a lot of galvanized metal. I built each and every one of these myself. And guess what? I'm not that great at it. If I had it to do over again, I would make the entire garden bed Vigo beds. This is not sponsored by Vigo. Hey Vigo, hit me up. But I made this last row Vigo beds, and I so wish I would have done the whole thing. It would have been so much nicer. Another thing that I did differently on this last row that I wish I would have done differently on the other rows is when I did the landscape cloth, the bare landscape cloth, I had it go under the bed by a couple of inches. So landscape cloth and then a couple inches of landscape cloth in here. And that is so weeds do not grow in that gap there. Let me show you what I mean. On these earlier garden beds, the landscape cloth goes what I thought was right up against the garden bed, but it doesn't go under it. And so what happens over time is that even this tiniest crack leaves the place for weeds to come through. And so now I'm constantly battling weeds around the perimeter of these beds, and it creates extra work, which is what you don't want. Here's one bonus tip. If I had it to do over again, I would put in this irrigation much earlier than I did. I tried to keep up watering with a hose, and during a Texas summer, that is just not reasonable. Plus, I have limited time out here at the farm, and when I'm spending time standing here holding a garden hose, that's just not an efficient use of time. So put in your drip irrigation. So benefit from my mistakes. When you put your raised bed garden together, use bare landscape cloth. Do not put wood chips on it. Let the landscape cloth tuck under the edge of the bed, and use Vigo beds instead of these handmade beds that I am going to have to replace anyway. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.